What's up, everyone out there in YouTube world, social media world, the world? Welcome to another episode of Music with MGL. I'm your host, as always, MGL. Damn microphone. So, thanks for another episode. As always, if you like what I have to say, please subscribe, hit the bell notification, comment, like, and share, etc., etc. We're slowly growing the channel, and we're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, which would be really cool if I could hit that in the next couple of months or by the end of the year. So, please tell all your friends to subscribe if you like what I have to say. Now, on to today's topic. As many of you know, as I've said before, I am a resident of the great state of Florida, which currently has the greatest governor in the entire country right now, and one of the best governors in the history of Florida, if I don't say so myself, as I've lived down here my entire life. I've been through quite a few of them. So we have Governor Ron Desantis, who is generally, as I said, one of the best governors around, in my opinion. And he's been signing a lot of bills lately, and one of them has to do with the Second Amendment, and it has to do with expanding or strengthening what's called the preemption law. Okay, so let me give you a quick little legal background here. Preemption means basically that a state is obviously made up of a lot of individual municipalities, counties, cities, districts, etc. So what a preemption statute means is that the state has decided to pass a law. It can be about any topic, but they've decided to pass a law that says they, the state, are the only ones who get to make a law regarding this particular issue. And again, it can be whatever issue it wants to be. In this issue, it happens to be firearms. So Florida is one of several states that have a preemption statute when it comes from firearms, which means that the state government, the legislature, and the governor up in Tallahassee, which is our capital, are the only body who can create firearm laws. None of the lower municipalities down below, counties, cities, municipalities, districts, whatever you want to call them, are permitted to make any laws as it relates to firearms that is preempted by the state of Florida, and they're the only ones that are able to do it. Now, a lot of states have preemption laws, but the laws are only good if you can enforce them. In other words, there are a lot of states, and Florida was one of them, that you pass this law that says preemption, but you don't really put a lot of punishment or teeth behind it, and so states will pass, or cities or whatever will pass those laws anyway and not care what the state law says. Now, ours was actually pretty tough. In other words, if you had a state or a city, let's say a city council decided to pass a assault weapons ban in Florida, the state doesn't allow that because we have a preemption statute. So if that county or city government decided to pass that law, you could sue them as a citizen, as just any citizen. The state of Florida could also sue them. And one of the punishments is that all those people can be fired. So if you voted for it, you could be fired. The other thing is you can get financial compensation, so you can hire a lawyer, and there's a lot of Second Amendment groups in the state that do that, and you get lawyers' fees for the lawyers. There can be punitive fines, etc. So ours already had some teeth, but it still required a lawsuit, and it still required things to be done to force that through. And a lot of cities were just doing it anyway. Whenever we'd have a big shooting, they would pass one of them anyway and say, I dare somebody to sue me, or I dare the state of Florida to do something about it. And so a lot of these cities kept doing this. And then when somebody would file a lawsuit, what the city would do is just repeal the ordinance. Okay, fine, you filed a lawsuit, we'll get rid of the ordinance. And then they would say, no harm, no foul. We passed it, you sued us, we got rid of it, and then your lawsuit ran away, and you couldn't get any of the remedies that you were asking for. So there were a couple of loopholes, I will say, in our preemption statute that allowed these cities to still do it and not really suffer the consequences. So recently, they added provisions to our current preemption law that made it stronger to enforce. So this is basically what it says. I'm reading an article from The Hill, but it's all over the place. You can Google it. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill on Friday that bans local governments from imposing gun regulations. Now, again, we already had that bill. This just strengthened it. The bill expands a 2011 law that allows citizens or gun groups to sue local governments for enacting gun restrictions and demand up to $100,000 in damages. And again, you can also get the person personally fired from their job. The new bill, which takes effect July 1st, expands the 2011 law in two ways. It will allow legal action for unwritten local policies that go against the regulation preemption, and it allows for local government to still be forced to pay damages and attorney's fees even if they alter their gun-related policies after the lawsuits are filed. Okay, so there's two of the loopholes that were in there. One of them I already discussed, which is basically, look, they would pass this law, somebody would file a lawsuit, they'd repeal the law and go, oh, well, you can't file a lawsuit anymore. It's moot because we repealed the law. It's essentially what they tried in New York City in the recent case that they filed a lawsuit for their draconian law against the city of New York, and then they just changed their law, and then they said, oh, the lawsuit is moot, and unfortunately the Supreme Court actually agreed with that. So this prevents them from doing that. It's also, and the first one I think is one of the most important ones, is it prevents these unwritten rules. So what happens is these governments, again, they're not permitted to create any rule, and it's a government entity. So for example, it's not even just a county commissioner. You could, for example, have a local sheriff who is not pro Second Amendment decide to institute department regulations that says we're going to keep a list of everybody locally who has firearms, or we're going to confiscate firearms when there's not even a crime, and we're going to force somebody to file a motion to get their firearm back, even though we're not allowed to keep it. They can create unwritten rules when it comes to their red flag laws about who they'll go after for the firearms and who's not. So I do a lot of red flag law litigation down here, and I've seen this type of things before, where you will have law enforcement agencies and some other agencies like the Department of Housing or HUD or whatever create these unwritten policies that, even though they didn't get passed by the legislature, they still basically have these policies on the books. And when you go to sue them, they go, what are you talking about? We didn't pass any law. We don't know what you're talking about. But we all know that there's an unwritten policy that they're violating the preemption statute. So a good example would be a housing development. So if somebody gets Section 8 housing in the county, they want to have a rule that says if you live here, you can't have a firearm in your house, right? It's like a rental agreement that basically says you can't stay here if you own a firearm, and you're not allowed to have any on the property. Well, you can't do that because, again, it's a government agency. HUD is a government agency. Now, a private agency, like somebody who owns their own apartment complex, can put whatever agreement they want in their rental agreement, conditions in their rental agreement, and it's perfectly legal because it's a private property. But the HUD is a government entity, and if the government entity has an unwritten policy or even a written one that says you can't have guns on your property, they're violating the preemption statute. So they wanted to shore it up by getting rid of those two loopholes and making it a little bit stronger. So look, I'm happy with it. You know, part of me always has an issue with these type of things because I am a local government kind of guy. I am a federalist kind of guy, meaning all government should be local. Like, I don't like when DC tells my state how to operate, and by the same token, on a lot of things, I don't like the state telling my county how to operate. As far as I'm concerned, if a county wants to have a rule, they should be able to have a rule, but the state, shouldn't be able to overrule that. I do, however, think there are some exceptions when it comes to that, and one of them is when it comes to constitutional rights, whether it's the Second Amendment or search and seizure laws or whatever. You can't have a county decide that they're going to issue warrants to search people's houses differently than the state does or whatever. So there are certain constitutional things that I think are okay being held in the states, because it does say in the Constitution whatever's not listed in there is reserved to the states or to the people. So the states, I do believe, have a hierarchy in the way our country is set up, and so they are the ultimate authority as opposed to Washington, D.C. So I do think it is a little different, but again, I do like small government, so I like my local government better than I like my state government usually, and I like my state government better than I like my federal because I'm in the hierarchy. However, this is a preemption statute. They are constitutional. There's nothing wrong with them, and this is an area that I think is allowable under the Constitution to do that, so it doesn't bother me that much. But if you are a pro Second Amendment person, you live in Florida, good news. They've made that preemption statute way stronger. So if you do live in a municipality or a county that you think is passing these laws or has these unwritten policies, there are several organizations in the state that will take up your case. You can just Google class action lawsuit for preemption statute or whatever, and you'll find a bunch of organizations in the state that are pro Second Amendment that take those cases all the time. So you should let them know if you're aware of one of these illegal preemption statute laws that are being put on the books or unwritten policies, so they can take that up for you. So that's my video here for today. Governor Desantis continues to just absolutely crush it. And it's another pro-Second Amendment thing for our state, so hopefully your state does it too down the line. So that's a little lesson on what preemption means and how it changed here in Florida. So as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, carry on.